The Medelin cartel was built by a handful of men: Pablo Escobar, the three Ochoa brothers, Carlos later, and a former emerald smuggler they called El Mexicano. Between them, they made billions, killed a presidential candidate, and helped push a country into rewriting its constitution. All of them had children in. One of those children was dead at 17, killed in the same raid as his father. Another waited 17 years to see hers again. And one of them changed his name, moved to another country, and spent his adult life apologizing for what his father did. The first child of the Medelin cartel to die was not killed by a rival. He was used. Jose Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, El Mexicano, a founding member of the cartel, and, by 1988, a name on the Forbes list of the world's billionaires, had a son named Freddy Rodriguez Celades. In August 1989, the Colombian army raided one of Gacha's ranches north of Bogota. They arrested Freddy. The charge was possession of illegal weapons, minor by the standards of that war, but the police held him. They kept him far longer than they held most unindicted prisoners. And the reason was straightforward. They were hoping the boy's father would do something reckless to get him out. He did not. According to contemporaneous reporting in Time, no sign of fatherly concern ever emerged. So the police tried the opposite approach. 4 weeks before the end, they released Freddy and then followed him. He led them to his father. More than 1,000 police and Marines closed on a property near Toulouse, on the Caribbean coast, on December 15, 1989. Freddy and 2 bodyguards were killed by heavy machine gun fire. Gacha died along with 3 others as they tried to escape into the jungle. Whether he was killed by gunfire or detonated a grenade himself was never firmly established. Freddy Rodriguez Celades was 17 years old. He had unknowingly delivered the police to his father, and it killed them both. 4 years later, on December 2, 1993, Pablo Escobar was shot dead on a rooftop in Medelin. He left 2 children. Juan Pablo was 16, Manuela was 9. What followed was not an inheritance, it was a flight. Along with their mother, they spent roughly a year being turned away from one country after another. Accounts of the route differ, but the countries named across them include Mozambique, South Africa, Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador. And there are reports the family even petitioned the Vatican. Every door closed. In late 1994, they reached Argentina on tourist visas and stayed. All 3 changed their names. Juan Pablo became Sebastian Marroquin. Manuela became Juana Manuela Marroquin Santos. Manuela's disappearance was the more complete of the 2. In 1999, Argentine authorities uncovered the family's true identities and arrested her mother and brother. Manuela was not arrested, and she remains the only member of the immediate family never to have been accused of a crime. Her identity was made public anyway, and she has not appeared in public since. There are no interviews and no memoir. Almost everything written about her is secondhand, drawn mostly from her brother's accounts, including the often repeated story that her father once burned around $2 million in cash to keep her warm while they were hiding in the mountains. That account comes from her brother. It has never been independently verified. She is, by some distance, the most successful vanishing in this story. That appears to have been the entire objective. Her brother's path was the opposite, and we will come back to it. Carlos later co-founded the Medelin cartel and built its logistics, most famously, a smuggling base on a private island in the Bahamas. He was captured in Colombia in 1987 and extradited to the United States almost immediately. He was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 135 years. That sentence was later reduced after he agreed to cooperate with American authorities. He had 3 daughters. One of them, Monica later Garcia, spoke publicly about what happened next. On June 16, 2020, after more than 33 years in American custody, later was released. He was 70 at the time, and he did not go home to Colombia. His father had been a German immigrant, which gave him German citizenship, and Germany agreed to take him. He arrived at Frankfurt on an ordinary passenger flight from New York, escorted by 2 American officials, and was handed over. He had never been to Germany in his life. He had no relatives there. His daughter told the Colombian magazine Semana that he had been diagnosed with cancer and would be cared for by a German charity. And then she said the thing that makes this a story about a child rather than a trafficker. It had been 17 years, she said, since she had last seen her father. She described herself as calm and at peace, knowing that he was well despite his illness. 17 years, and the reunion was a news report about a flight landing in a country he had never set foot in. The Ochoa brothers, Juan David, Jorge Luis, and Fabio, were the cartel's founding family, and they came from money before cocaine. Cattle ranchers from Medelin, who owned a restaurant called La Margarita. They surrendered in January 1991 to avoid extradition, served roughly 5 years, and were released in July 1996, having promised never to return to the trade. Fabio returned to it. He was arrested again in October 1999, extradited in September 2001, and was the only one of more than 40 defendants in a Miami indictment who chose to go to trial. He was convicted and sentenced to 30 years. He served 25 of them at a federal prison in Georgia and was released on the 5th of December 2024 and deported. On the 23rd of December, he landed at El Dorado Airport in Bogota, wearing a gray sweatshirt, carrying his belongings in a plastic bag. Immigration officials took his fingerprints, checked their database, and confirmed there were no outstanding Colombian warrants. No police were waiting. His daughter was. He had not seen her in 7 years. He hugged her and told reporters he was going to Medelin to live with his family. Asked whether he felt remorse for what he had done, he said no, that he had never intended to cause harm. That is the version of a reunion this cartel produced. 25 years, an airport terminal, and a father who still does not believe he did anything wrong. Which brings us back to the boy who was 16 on the rooftop day. Juan Pablo Escobar Henao became Sebastian Marroquin, a new name in a country where he could not get work under his old one. He studied at the Instituto ORT and then architecture and industrial design at the Universidad de Palermo in Buenos Aires. In 1999, he and his mother were arrested and accused of falsifying a public document, money laundering, and illicit association. Both were eventually released. Accounts differ on how long they were held, and prosecutors did not produce sufficient evidence. Then, in 2009, in the documentary Sins of My Father, he did something almost no child of a cartel boss has ever done. He met the sons of Luis Carlos Medelin, the presidential candidate his father had assassinated in 1989, and the son of Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, the justice minister killed in 1984. He apologized to them directly on camera for what his father had done to theirs. He has stayed public ever since. He published Pablo Escobar, My Father in 2014, and donated the proceeds to Colombian charitable projects, saying the point was not to wash away guilt, but to contribute where he could. In 2016, he published a list of 28 things he said the series Narcos got wrong about his family. He is now 49, working as an architect. He has been consistent about one thing above all others, that being someone's son is not the same as being their accomplice. 5 founders. 5 very different sets of children. A 17-year-old who was released from custody so that police could follow him to his father, and who died in the raid he led them to. A daughter who has not been photographed since the last century. A daughter who went 17 years without seeing her father and learned he was alive from a magazine. A daughter who met a plane at El Dorado and got back a man with his possessions in a carrier bag. And a son who gave up his own name entirely and then spent 30 years using the new one to say out loud what his father had done. None of them chose the surname. Only one of them has managed to make anything of it. If you found this video insightful, watch what happened to the children of the Cali cartel leaders next, including the son who inherited the cartel and then testified against his own father in a Miami courtroom. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. Thanks for watching.